Bonjour, bonjour les petits loups, étudiants universitaires québécois, milléniaux, bienvenue au podcast We Are Entrepreneurs. Ceci est l'épisode numéro 9 avec Pedro Jerez, Personal Results Specialist at Tony Robbins Company. Le podcast, le podcast a pour but de supporter et aider les jeunes entrepreneurs québécois, mieux comprendre leur mentalité, leur attitude, leurs problématiques, développer différents sujets towards Life Mastery. Nous sommes disponibles sur YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher. Merci de partager. On vient de commencer. Lancez vos idées, vos conseils. Notre mission est de créer 1 million de jeunes entrepreneurs dans les 10 prochaines années. Allons-y avec Pedro Jerez. Je te laisse. I'm gonna let you, Pedro, pitch your elevator speech to present yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. So I guess here's what people need to know about me. When I was 13, a complete stranger put a camera in my hands and I became obsessed. And I started making films, and before the age of 17, I had some films that screened all around the world. And that was amazing. And so naturally you do something like that. And what do you want to do? You want to go to the best film school in the world and study with my hero, which was a guy named Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
And so I applied, I got accepted, but my parents honestly couldn't afford to send me there. And imagine just thinking about one thing for the last 4 years and all of a sudden you can't do it. But my dad always painted this vision of, Jeff, it's better to go to any school than go to no school. And so out of anger, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and party, I'm going to go and drink on my parents' money. And I ended up going to a school called Ohio University in Ohio. And 2 weeks into it, I find myself in bed and just being completely honest. I was depressed, and it was one of the lowest moments of my entire life. But in that moment, I came across a video about a guy named Tony Robbins, of all people. And in that video, Jeff, I heard something really simple that would drastically change the direction of my life. And it was these words. He said, if you empty your wallet into your mind would eventually fill up your wallet. I didn't really understand what that meant, but I called my dad up and I said, Dad, I'm not asking you understand me. I'm not even asking that you fully support me, but please help me. And he flew me back home the next day. I landed in LaGuardia Airport and I went to bed. I woke up the next day and I had one credit card at the time. It was a Discover card and it had a limit of $750. I don't know why I did this, but I went on Amazon.com and I maxed out my entire credit card for $750. It was good enough for about 50 or 60 books. And I immediately traded my addiction for dark TV shows like Dexter, Prison Break, and all these different shows for just books. And what's so incredible about that moment, Jeff, was that 4 years before that, randomly in walks my mom into the house when I was living with her. I was 13 at the time. And she says, I have a gift for you. And she caught my attention because you got to understand, my mom doesn't bring me gifts every single day. And she hands me this bag. It had like some paper wrap inside of it. And I opened the bag and come to find out it was my summer reading list. At the time, it was probably the worst gift that anybody can give me. But fast forward 4 years, here I was maxing out my credit card for books. And that led to eventually, me having the opportunity to represent Tony Robbins just through the work that I did with myself, and now being able to speak and do my own live events and serve people in a greater capacity and live my dream.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, we talked before for a little 20 minutes, and yeah, we're going to try to bring back some stories you told me about. Amazing. Let's try to do that. So now from this past, you're giving a speaking speech at corporation, representing Tony's content, and you're personally focusing as well on personal productivity.
Yes.
Can you tell us more a bit about this endeavor of like going from companies to company, trying to like bring those 9 to 5, 500 corporation people another mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, let me first draw the photo a little bit. You got to understand, I'm coming in, no one knows who the hell I am.
Yeah.
They just hear I'm coming from this guy named Tony Robbins, and less than an hour, I have to influence these people to essentially make a decision if it's ethically the right thing to do, right? And I want to emphasize that if it's ethically the right thing to do, meaning they're the right fit and they're going to benefit from what we have to offer. And so what I guess, the majority of people who are listening, who are sitting in the audience, they're business owners, or they run their business as if they were business owners. And there's this illusion. There's this illusion, essentially, what's going to allow them to have greater results. And what happens is they get caught up in this thing called the crazy eight. And the crazy eight is essentially doing all these different things, but ending up in the same exact place. And it's years of these things, and essentially you're frustrated, like nothing works. And that's usually only when they find us, when nothing works. And they need results, and they need it now. They're desperate for something in their lives. And so the photo that I like to paint when I go ahead and give these speeches essentially is that usually what we're seeking for is strategies, what to do. What do I need to do to actually move forward and make progress in our life? But if I asked 80% of the people who are listening to this, probably already know what they need to do to make progress in their life at some level. And so if they know what to do, why aren't they making progress in their life? And so according to Tony and his beliefs is that 80% of our success comes back to our mindset, our psychology. And this is what Tony's the best in the world at doing. And it's essentially what I emphasize through stories and through a certain process that I go through with them, so that by the end of this conversation, they realize that there's a gap in their psychology. And the way Tony says it is that the chokehold of any business owner, I'll say it again, the chokehold of any business owner is the psychology of the business owner. Your business will never outgrow you. And this is the part that most people don't realize, and it's the part that we focus a lot of time on, and it has a lot to do with their productivity.
Say that again.
The chokehold on the business is always the chokehold of the business owner, the psychology of the business owner. It always comes back to the business owner. Always, 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 always. Your business will never outgrow you, ever.
Man, this is so true, and I see so many people stuck there. It's crazy. Even myself, I was stuck there for years. I was in business for 5 years, and then I was stuck. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to improve my sales. I improve my marketing, improve my communication skill to like better run the team, improve this. I was working on everything, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna find the way, right? Until I figure out that I should work on myself first.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, no, but it's so stupid. But like, it started with this. It started with like this personal development journal that I do every day, and then I note like the things that I do, my goals, and the thing that I realized throughout the day, how I interact with people, everything that I study from podcasts and books. It's like just like, yeah, I've been passing one book every month almost, and it started with this, and then start with habits after this. And then the habits that are tends to personal productivity, as we talked before. Maybe we could move towards that right away, since it's a nice transition. But yeah, like the habits of like not consuming like your phone in the morning, not consuming your emails in the morning, shutting down the social media for the whole day before 4 p.m. Like stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, before we go into there, one of the most important things that people need to realize before you ever make the decision to make massive progress in your personal productivity is that you first need to decide to take radical responsibility for your life. Meaning, right, when you take radical responsibility for your life, now you can't point the finger at someone else why you're not successful, or the reason why you're not having the results that you want in your life. And when you make this decision to take radical responsibility for your life and only to point the fingers at yourself, that it's a reflection of something much deeper, then can we make the decisions to change the habits, routines, and create the systems that are going to allow us to really make massive progress.
That's deep, man. That's deep. So, No, I had a lot of issues on that, man. It's crazy. And then it hurts me because I see everyone doing the same problems, and I see the new entrepreneurs. They're coming in, man. They work like 10 hours a day, like just on their laptop all day, and like your body doesn't move all day. You're there on your laptop, but you're just killing yourself, you know.
Yeah,
And
I couldn't agree more.
yeah, they just think that because they're on their laptop doing everything, they bring productivity work, but it's like you're saying. I never heard of this term before, but yeah, it's exactly like the crazy eight. This is it.
Yeah, and
So yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, so just to piggyback on that idea, so let's assume that you made the decision to take radical responsibility for your life. Now what? Right? Now what? And so a lot of the reasons why people essentially don't ever make progress, or they feel stuck, or they feel like they've tried everything. A lot of the reasons why I believe that people still don't make progress is, as we were talking about just a moment ago, it's the kryptonite in their life. And so if anyone's ever watched Superman, the film, knows that what destroyed Superman was the kryptonite, right? That was essentially his Achilles heel, what made him weak. And so for us, what is our kryptonite? In a lot of ways, it's this device right here, right? And it can be other things, but this is the one that I'll share some stats with you. I actually, again, this is my obsession. This is something I've been researching for years. And so I'll share some quick stats with you. Like, for example, 43% of people, I have this right in front of me, check their email in the middle of the night.
Really?
For example.
What?
Check this out. 35% of people check their phone before even getting out of bed. Meaning, as soon as their alarm goes off, they grab their phone. 35%.
I thought it was more, man.
Well, these are the people who admit, right? The people who actually admit it. So check this out. If you want one that's really crazy, 75% admit, it's not including the people who are lying, admit to using their phone in the bathroom. The bathroom.
Yeah, everyone does that.
Right? And so I can go on and on and on. Like 67% of the people check their phone for messages, alerts, or calls, even when it doesn't even ring.
Yeah.
Right? That essentially feel something vibrating in their pocket, but it's never really vibrated. And so they pull their phone out and they're checking for alerts.
Mm-hmm.
And so these different things have an effect. And what we don't realize is that we think that it doesn't have an effect on us. And here's what the science shows. What the science shows is that for every single moment we react and we think that it doesn't make a difference, it does. And it has a 25x multiplier effect. And so what that means is that essentially for every second that you check your phone to a distraction, what's really happening is that you're losing around 23, 24 minutes of productivity before you actually get back focused and start going back to what you were doing before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we were talking before about Darren Hardy, and he was saying that when you're actually working, we tend to have to be distracted every 3 minutes, and then it takes 11 minutes to get back into productivity mode.
Yeah.
And that's in a session of work that you're trying to be productive, where like your mind can be only productive for an hour and a half, so you have to speak at 45 minutes, and then you should take at least 20 minutes break to rest and fool your mind with meditation activity or other stuff. But like, yeah, like if you're working in a cafe where like me, I'm doing most of the time because I'm running around, and then you have people passing by, you tend just to look at people, so you get distracted all the time. At the end of the day, are you really productive?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And Jeff, like, imagine you're going through that 90-minute cycle that you're referring to, but every single time that you're reacting to an alert, to a message, to a Facebook post, to a Twitter tweet, whatever the case is, just imagine, just cross out 20 minutes out of those 90 minutes, and every single time that you do it, let's say you try to get some work done in between, how much work have you truly gotten done? In most cases, 20 minutes in a 90-minute cycle, and then we wonder why we're not where we want to be in life.
Yeah. this is the goal. I think it's really about like spreading analyzing your time, like per minutes of like what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then really analyzing your where do you work, how do you work. So like what are the basic to like to try to teach and empower somebody to start doing those things?
Honestly, like here's the first thing that we need to understand, because in the generation that we grew up with, this is normal. And so I don't want to make anyone wrong for the way that they currently behave. This is a behavior issue, right? And so in a lot of ways, we need to treat this as from a behavioral approach. And so we need to understand how human beings operate and all these different things to actually find the best approach. And so there's this saying, like, I'm obsessed with the Navy SEALs. And are you familiar with the Navy SEALs, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
David Goggins.
Yeah, David Goggins. So recently, one of the things I did was I actually went to go and train with the Navy SEALs. I flew to Texas and hanged out with like these 10 Navy SEALs, and I went through a miniature version of what they call Hell Week, right?
Oh my God.
And it was intense, right?
Good, man.
And there were some beautiful lessons in there. And one of the things that they emphasized consistently was this saying that says, humans before hardware. I'm gonna say it again. Humans before hardware. Do not, I'm gonna say this slowly and very carefully so everyone gets it. Stop trying to look for a better app to change your life. The app won't change your life. And this is what I did for years, trying to find the latest app, trying to find the latest whatever was available, and hoping that that would change my life. But the honest truth is that what we need is a better aptitude. And that's a completely different process. I apologize. My computer here, I forgot to charge it. Give me 1 second. All right, we're back. Let me just connect this here. And we are good. All righty. Sorry about that. So
it's okay.
And so this is what I was looking for a long time, a better app to change my life. And the honest truth is I came up empty every single time. And so I'll say the same one more time, humans before hardware. If you only get this from this conversation, this would change your life alone, right? Usually the most productive people that I know in my life are some of the most simple people that I've ever met. And if we can get this into our heads and really truly understand this, it would change our approach. It would change our behavior. I wondered why I couldn't stick to a certain fitness plan or a certain nutrition plan, or why I couldn't, do the behavior that I knew I wanted to do, the habit that I wanted to create in my life. And a lot of the reason why was I was seeking in the wrong places for a solution that place couldn't actually create for me. And so I love technology. I think it makes us all more productive. But I think it's not the answer. I don't think that it's the end game in terms of achieving at a super high level. That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, obviously, man. Obviously, that's totally on the same page with you. You've been doing some tests, right? This summer, you shut down your Facebook account, no?
You remember that?
Yeah, man.
And so, like, for me, like, again, what I'm about to say right now, I do not recommend that everyone takes this approach, but I am super serious about achieving at an extraordinary high level. I get that everyone is not willing to take the same sacrifices that I'm willing to take to do what's necessary in life to have what you want. And so I just committed a long time ago that I wasn't going to be the guy that said, hey, that just complained about life and just talked about all different reasons why I didn't have what I wanted in life. And so I made these decisions early on, so it's much easier for me to do this. And so, yes, I shut down my Facebook account for a little while. As of recently, As of recently, I've shut down all social media besides Facebook, which I use only because of business. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have a Facebook account. On my phone, there is no notifications, meaning if I don't intentionally check my phone, there's nothing there. If you tried calling me right now, the call would not show up, right? And so email does not exist on my phone. Calendar does not exist on my phone. And people hear this and it sounds crazy to them, but it's an approach that I've taken. It's the reason why at such an early stage of my life, these are the habits, the routines, the systems that the most successful people in the world adapt. And so all I simply did was model and started seeing the results kind of flourish in my life. And so that's why I kind of, take these approaches, and, I'm very extreme when it comes to them. And because of it, I have more fulfillment and all these different things in my life. I have more options that people don't normally have.
Man, I totally agree. Again, like we talked about that, I'm on the same page. I'm doing all the same thing. But at the moment, inside my company, I'm trying to teach and empower everyone to like move forward with those tips. The thing is that it's very hard to tell someone that his surroundings, most of them, they still study at university. So their surroundings is like everyone's on their phone all the time. Everyone is like commenting about stuff that they see on their phone, And you try to teach them to move forward with this kind of a mindset. And yeah, it's just like you're fighting with society at the same time. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, and
how do you teach those people that you're trying to empower to slowly move towards the right mindset when all the time they're being like in this a bad environment of like, it's like counterproductive.
Yeah, honestly, here's the first thing that I'll give you to think about, and everyone listening to think about, is this. I don't try to save everybody. I learned this a long time ago when I was first getting started. When I first started learning, when I first ordered those first 50, 60 books, and usually when you start this process of personal development, you think you know it all. And as you learn more, as you get older, as you become wiser, you realize that how little you actually know. And what I tried to do in the beginning was I tried to change everybody. I tried to empower everybody. And I was feeling frustrated. Frustrated that I couldn't change those people, that I couldn't help those people, because anybody who truly knows me, Jeff, knows that I cannot physically be around somebody who needs help and not help them. Like, it feels weird. And so because of that, I was just so frustrated. And so I made this distinction. And it was extremely powerful for my life. And this distinction was this. From a distance, I said, I love you. And love doesn't necessarily have to mean in a romantic way or anything like that. It just means I got your back. I love you, I got your back. But I don't have to help you all the time. I don't have to be responsible for your feelings if you don't truly want to change. And so that's the first approach that I took. And it was radically life-changing, because now I didn't feel responsible for someone else's results if they didn't want to take their life in their own hands. And I realized that people only make changes for two reasons. Either one, they have a drastic life experience like I did, or either, they're just compelled and convinced by what we're sharing that they decide, hey, maybe it's worth me looking into this. And that sparked curiosity. And curiosity is what changed my life. One day I asked my mom, she was seasoning some beans, Jeff. And I asked her, hey, Mom, why do you season beans the way you season beans? And what she told me pissed me off. She said, oh, that's the way my mom's always done it. And so I went up to my grandma. I said, why do you season beans the way you season beans? Because I was pissed off. What she told me, that's the way my mom's always done it. And then I started questioning things. I said, is this the best way to actually do this? And I got curious, and curiosity set me free. And so the first approach is, hey, it's okay. If you don't want to do it, I completely understand. Maybe I just need to find someone else to have that conversation with who actually truly is looking for the help and needs the help. And then the second perspective is, okay, how can I communicate to this person in a way that builds curiosity? And if I can just spark a moment of curiosity in this person, then as Tony says, I have leverage. And the reason why Tony, for example, is able to help anybody, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the individual is going through, is because he's looking for that spark, that moment that allows him to have leverage. And the moment you have leverage, then you can actually serve and help the person and give them, you know, everything that you want to give them. And so those are the two ways that you probably want to think about this.
So how do you communicate towards this spark?
How do you communicate towards the spark?
Yeah.
I'm not fully understanding the question.
So where do you start? Like, for example, like okay, again, like towards my staff, like most of them are like 23, 24 years old. They're all interested about that, and they're very curious about it. But they're still, I think, mostly continue on the same path. Yeah, they're learning the process, but they're not in any way implementing anything. And so there's no drastic life experience that made them change their life mindset, you know? So like, how do you start telling them that it's not gonna be like in 1, 2, 3 years that you need to start doing this, but now, you know? So how do you like start the conversation of like bringing them into a spark of like, okay, I have no choice, it's now or never, you know?
Yeah, well, I guess here's what I will share. If you're referring specifically to pure productivity strategies, you know, what's really interesting is that in a lot of ways they may think, I don't know, they may think that it's actually not acceptable. And here's what I mean by this. At Google or at different companies, they started implementing all these different strategies to essentially, you know, improve their bottom line, improve the productivity of their team members, and in the same time improving their happiness and all these different things. And so what happened was, like, let's just use something like napping. Like napping became this big thing at different places. And what happened was they built this nap room, they invested all this money into it, and no one was going into the nap room. Well, why not? Because what we found out and what the research showed was that this starts from the top bottom, meaning that the leaders weren't actually going into the nap room for the first place. And because of that, no one thought it was actually acceptable. And so what they thought they had to do was essentially grind it out and everything that we've been talking about. And so the first thing is that it starts from the top bottom. You know, is the leader actually already doing these things that he's asking of his team to do? And if the leader's already doing the things that he's asking his team to do, then there's a second approach that you're going to want to think about. And so for young people specifically, they respond to challenges. It can be like, hey, we're doing this as a company. It is completely acceptable. You know, as a company, what we're doing for the entire week is that, you know, we're completely disconnecting from social media, hypothetically speaking. Or as a company, what we're doing this week is, you know, we're taking a nap at 2 p.m. Or as a company, what we're doing is now it's completely acceptable. It is socially acceptable for them. You give them permission to actually do those things for the upcoming days. And once they get that feeling that, okay, I like this, I like how this makes me feel, then we can start, you can actually reward them for actually doing those things consistently and have those kind of conversations with them once they have that glimpse of what it actually truly feels like. And so that's one thing that you can do in organizations.
I like that, man. It's very good. I'm gonna try that. Yeah. So like, yeah. Just to recap, we've been going towards one content per month, and where like I'm slowly unveiling the content into a chat room on a specific project of our project management tool, and then I share small videos and stuff like that, and I allow people to comment. They're not obligated to, but they're obligated at least to just like applaud or like the conversation. And at the end of the month, I'm giving them a small quiz, just see if they follow the content. But again, all this is like, okay, they learn the content, they know, they're aware of it, blah, 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 but like how I make them commit to it and like, you know, like start like and then implementing the content in their life. And this, I think this is This is good. As a collective commitment, we'll try that.
Here's, I love it. Yeah, definitely go for it. But the one thing that I'll add is, I think that as individuals, this has been the most life-changing thing for me. As individuals, we're usually looking to add things. And here's the more important question: what can we remove? What can we remove that then allows me to add things much easier, or just do the things that I know I need to do much easier? And so we talked about some of them. We talked about social media. We talked about removing notifications, but to take it a step further, like, examine your world. And here's my encouragement to everybody that's listening: examine your world. What's everything in your life that's pulling for your attention? I'll say that one more time. What's everything in your life that's pulling for your attention? It is single-handedly the most important skill of the century. The ability to consciously decide where we're going to focus our attention. And so, from that place, like, okay, what magazines do I subscribe to? What television am I watching? Like, everything. What's everything that gets your attention? Newsletters, email, subscription. I was subscribed to everything before. Everything. Because I thought I needed to be an expert in my field. And the honest truth is I don't.
You need to focus on one piece of content. Sometimes the attention they're coming from people. There's people dragging you sometimes into their own world, and it's crazy. They're just like, you just analyze your own your instant message app, and you'll see like who is sending you message constantly. Just dragging your attention, and then but that's a big life decision, because like then if you want to do this move, you need to ask yourself, is this person really like bringing me to the next level? Yes or no? And then you compare the pros and cons, and then you're like, okay, maybe I should like tell this person that I'm gonna be off for a little while or something like that, and then they get mad.
And here's what's really interesting. What I found out is that unless it's my girlfriend, unless it's my mom, unless it's my dad, who I talk to maybe once a week, the honest truth is that they don't need to know. And here's this interesting thing that I learned. Here's this like life-changing. Like when I went off Facebook, I thought that my phone was gonna go off. Like, I'm a popular guy, right? People like to talk to me. And I thought that everyone's gonna say, Pedro, where are you? Like, I need to talk to you, all these different things. What I found out, and this is hard for me to admit. This is hard for me to admit. And if I can admit this, then you can admit this. Everybody can admit this. People don't care. It's the truth. And let me explain what I actually mean. You see, it's a life journey. You see, when we're young kids, before we're 15, from like age 5 to 15, like we want to be liked by everybody. It's the love syndrome. And every single time that we press like on a Facebook post or whatever, it's like this hit of dopamine that's hitting our brains. And so somewhere along the journey, we become 45 or 40 years old. And then we realize that it doesn't matter. We don't really care what people think at that point. We stop caring about what people think. We just go about our lives. We have responsibilities. We have families. We have kids. We don't really care what people think. And I'm so blessed to have learned this so early. And then somewhere along the line, you get much older. And I know this because I hang out with a lot of old people. Let's say they're 65, they're in their 70s. And at that point, they realize that no one ever cared. And what I mean by this, people, please don't mistake me. What I mean by this is not that you're not loved. But people don't really care enough to keep up with your life moment to moment to moment to moment. And what we need to learn how to do is retrain the people who are actually pulling for our attention consistently. And the honest truth is that I want to respond to everybody right away. I have the same needs as everyone else because I have this 2,000-year-old brain just like everyone else, right? And so I have the same needs to meet my need for dopamine, right? But the honest truth is that I need to retrain them. And I was traveling recently. I was in Austria. Me and my dad are super cool. He's an entrepreneur. He has a business of over $10 million. Really incredible guy. And he was trying to get a hold of me. He was trying to get a hold of me for a couple days. And the honest truth is that the moment that I called him, he's like, "Where are you? Where have you been this entire time?" And I told him that, hey, the honest truth is that, you know, I just can't respond to every single call that comes in all the time. And he understood. And my dad supported me because he knows what it truly takes to be great. Right? And we had an amazing conversation. We caught up and we promised to reconnect in a couple days, and that was it. And so if my dad can understand, then your friends can understand, the people around you can understand, and we just need to retrain people how to treat us, and, you know, realistic, you know, time responses and all those different things.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I think we live in this world where like everyone wants to be loved and everyone is chasing love all the time. So like we need to stop. To go back into your dad's experience. Now that's you move forward, right? Like this is fixed because of like the content you learn and everything. How did you like resolve those problems?
Yeah. You're referring to how did I resolve the problem of
The communication problems with your dad?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, like, you know, honestly, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I have a dad that gets it in a lot of ways, but he didn't always get it, right? He didn't always get it. He was one of those guys that, you know, even though he's been successful, you know, he's those guys that just work to the bone, and he's been successful because he works harder than everyone else, but he's overstressed and all these different things. And I was trying to help him in the beginning, but he didn't get it. So he's one of those guys that I was trying to help, but I just had to decide that, hey, I love you, but you know, I understand that you're on your own journey and it's going to take a little bit more time. And I had to be okay with that. And somewhere along the line, he really made the journey to invest in himself and, you know, really, you know, broaden his mind. And so I got really lucky in the sense that, you know, he understands me, or at least he's willing to try to understand me. And what's amazing is that he's been applying these ideas to his own life. Like, I'll give you an example. He caught me what I would call slipping, right? And what I mean by that was that I was in the car with him one day and I was responding to a text message, and he said, "You're missing out." I was like, "What? What do you mean?" He said, "You're missing out. Look around you. Be here now." Yeah. And for me to hear that from my dad was like life-changing.
Yeah.
It was life-changing because at that moment I knew that he was listening the entire time and that he got it. And so for me, it was just a conversation that I had, and just patience, and just patience with him. And I'm just so grateful that I have somebody like that in my life who gets it. And he knows that where I'm going, everyone can't go. And, you know, he's approaching his life the same way.
I was asking you this question because I have this issue right now, similar, where like I'm trying to open all this self-development content to my dad, and it's just blocked, you know, just blocked with like, I know everything, who you think you are, you know, like I've been saying this way before you were born, blah, 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 you know what I mean? But still, yeah. he's stuck in his life mindset of like just being this poor mentality person of like all the bad habit that doesn't bring him to the next level, you know?
Yeah. And my suggestion to anybody, and because I know this is not just you, Jeff, this is a lot of people who have this relationship with their parents. And my suggestion to anybody who's going through that, because I've gone through it, is make this decision and literally say the words coming out of your mouth, because this will be life-changing. You don't have to tell them this, but say it to yourself so you truly believe it. Because if I say it, it's not true. But if you say it, then it's true. And it's this really simple thing. Going back to what we said, you can say, let's say I'm talking about my dad. Say, I love you, and I understand it's going to take you a little bit longer. Or I love you, but I can't be around you all the time, but I got your back no matter what. Anything that you need, you can count on it. And so now we don't feel like we need to change them or they need to think like us. And this was life-changing for me because I wanted the people that I love the most to think like me. I thought it was so much better than the way that they think, and I truly do believe that. But I think that we're all on our own journeys. And what's more incredible is the fact that you can love somebody the way they are and not think that everyone needs to be like you. And that is incredible and incredibly life-changing. And it radically changed my relationship with my mom, with my dad, because of that decision that I made. And I made it early on when I was just, probably 19 years old. I looked at my mom because of that one decision that I made. And at 19, I told my mom I loved her for the first time in my entire life because of that decision. And it only came out of that decision. And that radically changed my world because I didn't have to change her anymore. I love you no matter what. And I realized that's going to take you a little bit longer. You know what? My mom right now, she's completely different. She's still on her own journey. She's not running as fast as I am, but she's expressing interest. She's asking questions. And what more can I ask for?
Man, this is deep. It's very good, man. Thank you for sharing. Yes, yes. What brought you into this decision?
Oh, man. This is single-handedly, what I'm about to share right now is single-handedly the most important thing I've ever learned in my life. It is the reason for being alive. This is as deep as it gets. You know, we think that, or let me just say I thought that the purpose of life is being successful, earning a lot of money, going on the vacations I wanted to have, having the big house, having the big car. And I truly still desire those things. And I'm not anti-money. I'm all for millions of dollars. And that's the direction that I'm moving in, right? But there's this thing that, and Tony, he went ahead and he's the one who taught me this. And he calls it living in a beautiful state. And one of the things that I do in my life, and I realized that even though I never admitted this, I was consistently suffering. And it's a hard word to actually say, especially for entrepreneurs. They call it stress. They say, I'm stressed. Well, I want from now on, moving forward, the moment that you think of stress, I want you to think of suffering, right? Now, if we're talking about stress in the sense of exercise, if we're talking about stress in the sense of nutrition or anything along those lines, fine. But if we're talking about the emotional quality of your life, I want you to think of stress as suffering from now on, moving forward. And I realized that in a lot of ways, even though I was working on myself more than anybody around me, in a lot of ways, I was unhappy. It's the honest truth. And this is hard for me to say myself. I was unhappy. I was doing all these different things that I thought I needed to do. I was earning more money than I was earning in my entire life. I was traveling to all different places that I wanted to travel to. The reason why in a lot of ways was because I never made the decision to take responsibility for my life. I never made the decision to take full responsibility for everything in my world. If there's a scale to bring this home, let's just say on the left side you have suffering, and on the right side you have what you would call the beautiful state. Usually most people that I ask this to, I said, look, if I were to ask you right now, based off the average emotional quality of your life, where do you think you live most of the time? Are you suffering or are you living in a beautiful state? Most people would tell me is that they live right in the middle. And right in the middle, in between, is where all suffering lies. And so when Tony explained this to me, it made sense. It made sense because think about it like this. Anytime that anything good has ever happened in your life, who do you want to tell? Someone else. Someone else. And so life is really just the emotional quality of our lives. And my experience convinced me of this. And so somewhere along the line, I just decided that you know, I was going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. That, you know, it's not that these moments are not going to happen moving forward, but that I was just going to realize that I wasn't going to give up my happiness so cheaply. Does that make sense? And that's kind of how it happened. And then, you know, essentially a lot of moments after that happened in my life that essentially reinforced this belief. And one of them was just recently, like the story I told on Facebook just recently about, you know, me being in Indonesia. I met some of the happiest kids I've ever met in my entire life. They have nothing. Some of them, gosh, they have no moms, no dads. Some of them don't even have families. These are orphans. Some of the happiest kids I've ever met in my entire life. And they have nothing. And so when you have these experiences, you can't help but truly believe this. And they just reinforce my belief that this is the direction that I wanted to live my life in. That the most important thing that I can do is take radical responsibility for everything in my world. That I'll take ownership for the emotional quality of my life and decided to live in a beautiful state, because there is nothing more. You can have all the money in the world. I talk to some of the most wealthy people in the world every single day. They come to me for help, or I'm working with them because of Tony. And they've achieved the science of achievement, but they've terribly failed at the art of fulfillment. And I would argue that even though the science of achievement is so important, the art of fulfillment is what ultimately makes it worth it. Anybody who's truly been in love, anybody who's done any of those things know that they wouldn't trade that for the world if they've truly felt what it feels like to be alive. And that comes out of the emotional quality of your life.
So yeah, we tend to have those people like they're fully fulfilled, like in those countries, for example, in Uruguay, where like they're fully fulfilled in living in those like little town with their family lifestyle and everything. And you can sense like yeah, like in Bali, they're totally like those people are on top of happiness. And then where like those people, their master achievement, as you said, it's like the two extremes, right? But how do you get this balance and still become like a successful person that is empowering people worldwide and being a fulfilled life? You know, I think the best example is probably Tony Robbins. But like, how do you become like him?
Yeah, and I want everybody to listen and listen carefully. Balance is a fucking illusion.
Really?
Balance is an illusion. If you're successful at anything, your life is unbalanced. When you're totally in love with somebody, your life is unbalanced. If you're achieving success at a very high level, your life is unbalanced. Balance is a myth. And the sooner we learn this, the sooner we can move on with our lives. And so it's not about balance. You know, I'm not searching for balance. I'm just searching for it, right? And I'm searching for it at a high level. I'm not looking for it to be balanced in terms of success and fulfillment. I realize that it's going to be unbalanced just based off the day-to-day of life, right? But I just want them both at a very high level. And I realize that, you know, if I have really high demands at work, you know, I may decide based off my values to prioritize it. Or, you know, just based off an experience that I had recently, it's just, you know, more in front of my focus than something else. And so, yeah, I just think balance is a huge myth. And I think that, you know, just depending on our day-to-day life, that we're going to experience these feelings and emotions differently. And we're going to value them differently. And so that's why it's really important to know what we value in life. And so we can, you know, lead our life from that perspective. But I don't believe in balance.
For example, right now, like what are your daily habits that allows you to perform to the next level, but still stay like truly like grateful of what you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge. I'm huge on habits, routines, and systems. So I mean, it sounds boring to a lot of people, but my life's very simple. And it allows me to experience an extraordinary amount every single day. And so, like, I just give you my day to day. You know, I wake up at 7:30 in the morning. I think I'm a a little on the late side, but I wake up around 7:30 in the morning every single day. And then from there, I usually carry a liter of water right next to my bed. I drink it. I go into the shower, take a cold shower, as cold as it goes. And I do that for about a minute or two. Then I jump out. And I usually spend the first hour and a half of my day usually working on something that's really important to me. So that kind of the first half of my day is really consists of intense focus, because I realize that's when it's the highest. And so just like we were talking about before, just like a lot of people probably already know, I spend an hour and a half working on something. I take some sort of a break. So then I have breakfast. Right? I'm not a huge fan on breakfast, to be honest, but I have a small breakfast, and then I'll do another cycle for an hour and a half, and then I'll do maybe some meditation, or every single day is different. I like to change it up, or maybe I'll do what I do called mobility work. I'm huge on that. So to make sure my body's healthy and that I can move, and so I don't have back pain. And then from there, I'll do another hour and a half cycle, and I do this 3 times before I take my first massive break. I usually do training, and that's where I spend an hour and a half really just like destroying my body, so then that I can, and then I come back, I take a small nap. And then usually, for the most part, depending on my day, depending on what I'm working on, I'm done in terms of work, because the work that I do is really highly creative for the most part. Usually a lot of writing, usually writing speeches or working on content, things along those lines. And that's when I really make sure to go outside and go for a walk. I leave my phone at home, and I just want to be outside with nature, or just connect with people outside I've never met. It's different every single day. And then usually the second half of my day consists of usually some learning. So I'll spend usually an hour and a half to 3 hours a day, which is a lot, learning something new. And I always have dinner with people, never alone. So dinner with family, dinner with friends, or something along those lines. And then late at night, usually between 7:30 and 10 o'clock, I usually find something interesting to do. So whether that's volunteering my time in the community, at church, friends, family, anybody who needs help, that's kind of the time that I dedicate to other people, doing Facebook Lives, and just being with people, with actual human beings. And if I have time, then I'll respond to a couple messages, and that's pretty much my day for the most part.
That's amazing. That's let's say that's the perfect setup, right? Like, as you probably experienced, we have those days, right, where like we lose it. We're not able to like go towards this kind of setup, and then we lose one day, and then tends to be a second day, and then a third day, and then you're on this path of like, oh my God, you're looking back your journal, you've been fucking it up for 7 days now, This ever happened to you?
Of course, all the time. All the time. And here's what everyone needs to realize. You're human. Suck it up. Move on. Right? And so stop feeling bad for yourself because you didn't follow your routine for the last 7 days. Like, what the fuck? Right? And so what happens is that, here's one of the things that I realized. A lot of people come to me for help, right? And so here's what they try to do. They try to convince me, like actually convince me, help them. Why they're so fucked up. Why they can't seem to get the routine right. Why they've been trying to stick to a habit and they can't seem to stick to it. It's a story. Realize that it's just a story that we're telling ourselves. We can move on with our lives and get it right the next time. And so it's a battle. I hate to talk to this. I mean, if there's a woman listening to this, this probably won't resonate, but the honest truth is that you have to go to war every single day. That's the way I look at life. It's a bloody and masculine, intense way to look at life, but it's the way I look at it. I study war, I study warriors, and every single day with life. And it's what I attempt to do every single day. And I realize that I'm not going to win every single battle, right? But I'm going to show up and I'm going to do what I have to do every single day to hopefully be victorious at the end of the day, based off what is it that I want. And so I don't, and so I make it really simple for myself. I'm not focusing on 3, 5, 7 things a day that I'm trying to get done. I'm focusing on one. There's only one thing I want to get done a day. If I get that done, I had a successful day. And the honest truth is that that's what the majority of the people who achieve at the highest level are truly doing, one thing that's most meaningful to them.
The one thing. Yeah.
Great book.
There's a book about that.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. Oh man, we've been talking for so long. We passed our time. Yeah. Okay, let's do a transition slowly to a conclusion. Quick question. What would you do today with $10 million in your hand?
Gosh, if it was just given to me, the first thing I'll do is make $10 million with those $10 million. Yeah, find a way to actually make the money because it was given to me. And otherwise, it's just going to be 10 million. It'll get spent somehow. That's it. It'll be done. So I'll find a way to make $10 million with those $10 million. That'll be the first thing that I'll do. And maybe I'll buy something nice in the process.
And then?
All right. I mean, honestly, man, honestly, the number one thing that I think about, if like anything's ever given to me, I'm just thinking about, okay, how can I actually earn this with this? Now I've been given an advantage because I can use this exact money now to actually earn it back. And I'm sure I'll have some sort of amazing experience, probably travel for a year or something like that. I don't know, and writing a book while I do it or something. But I would invest it, is what I would do.
Yeah. This is actually a deep question when you think about it. Because you didn't work for that money, right?
Yeah.
So, like, do you really deserve it?
Yeah.
And where's your mindset at? Like, are you gonna go help others, or are you gonna make it fructificate like you propose?
Yeah.
Talks about a lot about your mindset. Personally, like there's a lot of people like, yeah, they play like like the lottery, like they try to become they dream of like, I'm gonna become a millionaire, I'm gonna hit the jackpot, do it $2 million. But the stats they show that those people after 3 years they just spend everything. They think that it's gonna change them, but it doesn't,
Yeah, and they're back exactly where they started again, working at Walmart.
Yeah.
So
it's because they didn't work for that money. They didn't work for it.
It's true.
It's the same thing with venture capital. Like people are raising money, like they're raising 2-3 Series A, $10 million, and then boom, young entrepreneurs, 25 years old, they have all this money in the bank account to grow business. They didn't work for it, and so like for most of the time they just spend it out like crazy.
While we're on this topic, there's a great book that I encourage a lot of young people to read. It's called Stretch, and the only reason why I actually recommend it is because it gets you out of this microwave mentality, having you think, because a lot of young people, we start with no resources, right? And so we think that we need resources to be successful. And the honest truth is that you have an advantage when you have less resources than if you had resources, because you would misuse those resources if you had them. And so I think Stretch is the best book that I found that really explains this and really helps young people realize that they have the advantage right now with less.
I don't know this book. I'm gonna read about it for sure. Like, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
That's amazing. Like you don't need money, you don't need resources, you need a plan. I was listening just yesterday, a guy doing a talk like this. I don't know if I should tell the story, but it's so good. The guy is like, it's just telling a business story of like, okay, there's this flower shop owner wants to buy the flower shop owner next door, and he's going to see the guy, and the guy say, I can buy you for 50K. And the guy said, okay, yeah, 50K. But the guy said, but I don't have the 50K. So what do? I go to the bank or I go to an investor. But the investor tell him, look, you don't need money. You need a plan. So what would your suppliers do if you go see him and tell him, look, I'm gonna move, bring you like 2 times more revenues in the next 3 years. Would you lend me like 25K? Everyone say, okay, for sure, yes. And then go see the other flower business owner to buy him. He said, look, I'm not going to give you 50K. I'm going to give you 60K. But I'm going to give you 25K now, and then the rest towards 3 years. Would you agree on that? And everyone's agreed. And at the end of the day, the guy, he spent no money from his pocket.
Yeah. I think that the only time, if there's someone out there who's looking for venture capital, I think the only time that someone should actually be seeking out venture capital is one of two things are happening. You know, either one, they have a specific product that they can't, and it's like, it has a huge demand and they just can't meet the demand, then fantastic, bring in an investor, right? That's totally cool, right? But the honest truth is that, you know, most people just they don't need capital. They just need to learn how to make it work with what they got. And that's what ultimately is going to make them, you know, have a much longer, prosperous career, instead of trying to spend money that they don't know how to allocate or use. In a lot of cases, you end up becoming a lot more successful by not having that money.
That's true, man. Because you're not learning about yourself. You're not suffering before. You suffer. Okay, personal question, and then we move on into a conclusion. What is the book you gave the most to friends and family?
Gosh, which one? Oh, I know. Really simple. It's called Essentialism. Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's my favorite book of all time. I've read the book at least 6-7 times, which is you know, unheard of for me. Every single page on that book is marked up or folded or something. It is hands down my favorite book. It's the book that set me off on this path to what it truly takes to be the best. Because, like, here's what I realized. To be, like, let's just use the Olympics as an example. To win a gold medal, that's fine. Like, any coach in the world can probably get you there if you're willing to put in the work. But the 1% between the gold medal and the bronze medal, that's what I'm really interested in figuring out. What's the difference between somebody who wins a bronze medal and somebody who wins the gold medal? And in a lot of cases, it's usually what's not there. Going back to what we talked about, is more important than what's there. And living this disciplined life is actually the great difference between super achievers and people who just achieve. And I feel like if I'm going to train for the Olympics, then I'm going to go for the gold, and I'm going to win the first time around. And really interested. And when you read the book, you're going to be like, Pedro, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't even connect the dots. Like, just trust me, apply the ideas and see what happens in your life. Tell me how much better you feel. That book is so powerful. It's one of the probably my favorite book I've ever read. Definitely top 5 books I've ever read in my entire life.
I'm gonna read that, man. Thank you. Did you read the Relentless?
Relentless, of course. Tim Grover, love him.
Yeah, it's a bit like what you just said. Like, it's what you don't see in the mirror that is stopping you from the top. Yeah. Yeah,
I agree.
I never heard of this book. I'm gonna do some research. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Okay, one deep last question. So you're on your deathbed, and then you have a minute to share the best content to your friends and loved ones.
Honestly, if I'm on my deathbed, then I feel like I did everything that I needed to do in this world. Like, you know, I made a decision a little while ago that I was going to do it right the first time around. And that's why I say no to so many things. Like, in the beginning, it was just yes. I was looking for opportunities. But
so, you know, but what would you share? What's the content would you share? What would you say, you know, to your friends and family?
I don't know. I don't know if I would share anything, but I guess if I absolutely have to, it would probably be one or two things. It would be, one, live in a beautiful state. It's not, anything else is not more important. It's the most important decision you'll make in your entire life. It would probably be just live in a beautiful state, take full responsibility for everything in your world. And I don't know, like, maybe like,
that's good, man.
Yeah, it would probably be something like that. Just live in a beautiful state. It's like, it's the most important decision you ever make in the world. Take full responsibility for everything in your world, and just love. I mean, it's cheesy, but honestly, I think that love is probably the most important thing in this world. Like, there's nothing more important than that. And At least my experience tells me so, and so that's what I'm after. And I know if I do that consistently every day, I'm going to live a full life. And so honestly, that's what it's about. Those three things. That's it.
Yeah, that's true, man. Totally agree, man. I would add the Iceman, Jim Hoff, Wim Hof.
Wim Hof.
Yeah, breathe, motherfuckers, breathe. It's so true.
I love it.
It's so true.
I love Wim. He was at our event recently. He's really great.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So good. Okay,
he was
man.
So fun. He was like comedy.
Yeah. But I think as from all these life experiences, his state right now is another level. You know, it's just like is on constant flow of life. You know.
Yeah, I agree, man.
You can see it in his face. It's like the guy is like doesn't need anything, for sure. Okay, man. Well, we've been doing this for an hour.
Have we really? Holy
yeah,
fuck! I haven't even looked at the time.
Let's do this small conclusion. I'm gonna shoot you some phrases to start with, and then if you can just finish them.
Okay.
Happiness is.
Happiness is a joke.
I actually want to know more about that.
I'll tell you really quickly. I think that if you're just after happiness, it's very superficial. And the people who just want to be happy are usually some of the most unhappy people in the entire world. And so what I'm after is not happiness. What I'm after is deep meaning. And I think that what I want is a meaningful life, not a happy life. I think, again, happiness and $2, like, what does that get you? Right? It's very momentarily. But if my life is full of deep meaning, then it's different. It lasts. And it means something. And it's not something you can easily take away. That's what I'm after, not happiness.
That's good, man. Thank you. Never lose money on?
Never lose money on. Wow. Gosh, I don't know, man. Never lose money on something I don't understand. Let's just say that.
Okay. The greatest pleasure in life is?
The greatest pleasure in life is experiences. Deep, meaningful experiences.
It's true, man. Be grateful every day or?
Suffer. Suffer.
True. The future is?
Abundant. Abundant.
That's true. Yeah, that's true, man. There's a big talk about that. If we start this,
there is, yes.
Okay, man. Let's finish that here. It's been a long talk. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all your insight and your knowledge. It's incredible. Like, seriously, like, just for me personally, this make my day. Now it's the beginning of my day. I'm gonna have probably the best day ever. I'm gonna share this with my team for sure, and with a couple of my friends. Like, seriously, like, very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, man. I enjoyed it, and I hope it serves somebody watching this for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, I'll share it to a couple of my friends, like, personally. Like, you need to listen to this. Thanks, man. See you around. Hope we can meet.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'll just say this last thing before we end. If anybody would like to get a hold of me and they feel like that I can serve them in any kind of way, the best way to do so, you're welcome to send me a quick email. I don't check it very often, but I will check it and respond.
Cool.
And so they can do that at influencer. So it's just influence, but with an R at the end, influencerpedro@gmail.com. And you guys are welcome to reach out and happy to serve in any way I can. Okay.
Perfect. I'll put in the description as well.
All right. It sounds amazing.
So if I tell a few friends to reach out, like would you what would be the process?
What would be the process to reach out?
Yeah, if they seek for advice, or like do you take on like personal coaching, or like?
Yeah, that's kind of the world I live in. You know, really for me, it's I have a couple of, I don't really take on a lot of one-on-one clients. And so for me, it's like I decided that I only want to work with a certain amount of people
Sure.
At a time. And the reason why I specifically do this is the moment that the quantity affects the quality, I'm not interested anymore, right? I'm
Sure.
interested in serving people at the highest level. And the only people who work with me are the ones who want to, you know, have big dreams, the ones who want to achieve at a very high level. Like, if you don't have big ambitions, do not reach out to me. If you have a quick question, fantastic. But if there's not something that you want that doesn't scare you a little bit, you know, let's save each other's time. But if there's something that, you know, that scares you a little bit, but you're just not sure how to actually get there, then I know I can help. I feel like I am the how to a big, scary dream. And, you know, it's been proven. It's not my opinion. I've done it already with several people. And so if that's you, then you're welcome to reach out to me. Let me know who you are. Or even if you just have a quick question and would like to reach out, if I have the time, happy to, you know, respond and serve in any way I can. And so that would be the process. Just kind of reach out to me and let me know, and then I can get them some more details from there.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Jeff, it's been a pleasure.
Peace.
See you, man.